Okay, so today we're working on one of my favorite movements other than a hip thrust, which is a deadlift. A deadlift is by far, I think, the hardest strength movement to learn because it's an ever-changing movement. It has multiple ways to do it. And so today I wanted to give you two different versions, your conventional deadlift and then your sumo deadlift, and show you the differences between the two. Both are great, and I'll tell you kind of which one is better for you depending on your mobility. So the first one we're gonna go into is gonna be your conventional deadlift. So with this, a deadlift is a hinging movement. So I hear this all the time. People always tell me, well, so I'm squatting, and I'm like, no, your knees are staying, your shins are behind the bar when you're doing a conventional deadlift. So although you feel the position, we call it like moving as a tabletop. So although it feels like you're squatting, you're actually hinging. So you're pressing those hips back into that hinge position. Squatting is different. We'll get into that later. All right, so hip width apart are your feet for a conventional deadlift. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna hinge back. I'm going to go down to the bar, but I'm keeping my weight on the heels, so my shins are staying behind this bar. My knees aren't pushing forward like this. They stay behind the bar. I'm gonna grab my grip, which is gonna be just outside of my hips. My shoulders are engaged, so I'm engaging those lats, pulling them back so I have a nice flat back, and then I'm going to pick up, pressing through my heels, squeezing my glutes to the top, okay? So I'm starting again. I'm hinging, getting over the knee, taking the whole thing down like a tabletop. My shins are behind the bar, and then I'm squeezing through. Here's in real time so you can see it nice and smooth. Good, okay. Now we're gonna talk about a sumo deadlift. Stance is gonna be wider than hip width. Now you can decide how wide that is. So it can be a moderate sumo, or it can be a more dramatic, which I tend to like the wider for me personally. So you're gonna go wide stance. So what does that mean with your hands? Hands are gonna go narrow. So somewhere within the width of your legs, okay? But you don't want it to be so wide that you're like guiding your hands down your legs. So be mindful about that grip. So you're gonna do exactly the same movement as we just did. We're hinging back, coming down, keeping my shins behind the bar. And then my hands, see my hands placement? You can do them super narrow. I just prefer a little bit wider. I'm gonna engage my lats, core is tight, pressing through my heels, squeezing at the top, hinging. Good. So, sumo puts less tension on your hamstrings. So if you have somebody that tends to have a little bit tighter hamstrings, this is a great place for them to start with deadlifts because it doesn't put as much pressure, and then you won't hear them speaking of their low back. Usually low back issues, if you have really tight hamstrings, you start to feel things in your low back, so be mindful of that. Start with the conventional, work your way up. Try the different movements, see how they feel to you. You do not have to do it with just a barbell. You can also do these same two movements with a kettlebell, dumbbell, anything else that you have available to you. So try them out, see what you think, see which one you like best.